So before I start, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Kaiande Devonish. Most people call me Kai. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. What that basically means is that I'm a licensed consultant with the Government of Canada, where I'm able to give legal advice and help persons with their any immigration issues that you may have. Why I stress on the importance of dealing with like somebody who's licensed is that you could actually go onto the government website to find out if someone's license or authorized, because in this business you hear a lot of stories that persons, they would have paid somebody money to help them with their residence or with a work permit, and then they didn't hear them. So when they come to me, the first thing I say, okay, so were they licensed? And you'll be like, I'm not sure. But the same way you wouldn't want to go by an unlicensed doctor or an unlicensed pilot, you shouldn't want to put your life and your future in a person who's unlicensed. So every time you want to go to someone to get any kind of legal advice, whether it be immigration or anything, make sure just ask them what their license number is, and then you can go on the government's website now to actually verify that information. Because anybody could just make up any number too, huh? So you always, first thing before you pay anybody anything, find out what their license number is and verify for yourself. If you just Google, find out if my agent is or my consultant is authorized, you would see the government link come up on the first on the screen. Okay. Also, any advice I give on this live is not legal advice. This is just information. So this is not advice that you can use to go and do anything, right? This is just general information on what happened today. Okay, so thanks everyone. So getting into it. So what exactly is the new policy and what is an ETA? So basically the policy, they highlighted 13 countries that no longer needed a Canadian visa to enter into Canada. Of course, when people see a headline, they just see the headline and they run. But they don't actually now look at the policy to see what is the fine print. What do they actually mean that we don't need a visa? So once it is you get into the policy, you would see actually who qualifies for this visa-free travel. And it also explains how to get an ETA. So an ETA is an electronic travel authorization. So Canada has that, as well as other countries in the world. They have something called an electronic travel authorization, where you just go online, you put in your passport information, and they give you an electronic document stating you are able to now visit that country. So Canada has had this system for about 8 years. So persons, like if you're from Europe, if you're from like some of these first world countries, Singapore, you need an ETA. But some of the countries, they also need a visa. They call them high-risk countries. So the same way you need a visa to go to the USA as a Trinidadian, we used to need a visa to go to Canada. But now they are now having exemptions for certain persons. So the two persons who are eligible to get this ETA is either you have a current valid US visa. So that means you would have applied through the US embassy and gotten a visa. Or if you don't have a visa, a US visa, you would have possessed a Canadian visa in the last 10 years. So if it's expired right now, that's okay. But once it is in the last 10 years, you had a Canadian visa, you can now just go online, pay it's seven Canadian dollars. So you use your credit card, you pay to the Canadian government, that's $7 Canadian dollars, and they give you that ETA. It will have your name, it will have I guess your passport number and certain biometric data that is specific to you, so that they can identify you. Because when you now go to the border, you will have to now present that, so that they will know that, okay, you are this person, and they will just do like a light check to just make sure that you are this person who is coming to Canada. One of the other caveats with this visa is that, with this ETA, is that you can only use it at the airport. So I know, like even myself, I live Canada right now. I live Toronto. Sometimes I would take a drive to New York because it's actually very close. So you might say, hey, it's a long weekend in Toronto, let's go down to New York City, let's go down to Buffalo. and we drive, you can either drive, you can take a train, you can take a bus. But when you're coming back into Canada, you will not be able to use that ETA. So you're only able to use an ETA if you're flying in to Canada. So that means if you're coming by cruise ship, if you're coming by bus, by car, by train, or even walking, like some people, they walk, you are not able to use that ETA. You will now have to use the Canadian visa. So if you know you're driving, you have to go through the regular process. You do the application form, you drop in your passport at the embassy or the visa office at one regular place, and they put something in your passport. This is a physical document that they put in your passport. That is if you're going through by land or with driving or these things. All right, so if it is you're going by plane again, you're able to use that ETA. And just to recap, the ETA costs $7 Canadian, and you pay that directly to the Canadian government on the website. So once you go onto canada.ca, that is the government website, canada.ca, you just put in, like in the search bar, ETAs, and once you go on that page, they'll ask you what country you're from. You put in Trinidad and Tobago, and then the application starts from there. Once they have all the required information, they will ask you to pay the $7 with your credit card. And now, of course, you have to have a valid passport. That's also important. All right? So you ask, so if it is you already have a Canadian tourist visa currently, and say it's expiring in the next 5, 6, 7 years, next year, what do you do with this, hi, good night. Yeah, so what do you do with this Canadian tourist visa that you already possess? So according to the government website, you can continue using this visa until it expires. Because if you decide you don't want to use that Canadian visa, which you already paid money for, you will now have to go and pay for an ETA. And remember, if you're going through by the bus or by car, you would still need that Canadian visa. So it won't make sense you're now applying again for an ETA because you already have a Canadian visa which is still valid for entry into Canada. So your Canadian tourist visa that is currently valid is not null and void. It's not that they won't accept it and you have to get an ETA. An ETA is if you don't have any kind of entry visa right now, you can use an ETA once it is you are going by plane. So some persons ask, can I work on this now? The answer is no. It is still used for tourists, and well, they say business, but it's more like if you're a business person and you want to come and meet with some clients or you want to come and do something, but it can't be that you're coming to work and someone in Canada is paying you. So if you are, say you're a football coach and you just want to come and talk to some coaches in Canada, or you are a teacher and you want to come and talk to some schools, you are able to do that. But you're not able to now go to that school and start teaching in that school where they are paying you. It is still a tourist visa or tourist ETA, so that means you're allowed to do tourist things and business purposes. Okay, what about if I want to live in Canada? Of course, same thing. No. So with the visa, you had the validity that you would get to stay in Canada was up to 6 months, right? You cannot stay past 6 months, or that will be called overstay, and you'll be out of status. And one thing you don't want to do in Canada is be out of status, because that could affect you and your visa requirement. Even if you want to just work, they would say that you are a person who would have disobeyed the law while you are a tourist. So we don't trust that you would obey the law if you give your work permit or a permanent residence. They will look at all that. So you never want to overstay your visit. With the ETA, now your validity in Canada is the same 6 months. You cannot go over 6 months with an ETA, the same as you cannot go over 6 months with your good night everyone. Yeah, so you can't go over 6 months with your ETA, the same as with your tourist visa. Yes. Oh, thank you. All right. So just to recap for those who joined in late, so I would have this live saved and have it and upload it onto my feed. So if it is you missed any part and you want to go back and hear it, I would put it back up for y'all. But just to recap, I just talked about what the new policy meant in terms of the visa requirement being dropped for certain Trinidad and Tobago nationals. And I say certain is because it's not available to all Trinidadians. There were 2 points that they made. You either have to have a US visa currently that is valid and not expired, Or if you don't have that, you have to you had to have a Canadian visa in the last 10 years. The Canadian visa could be expired right now, but it would have had to be valid in those times, and you'll be able to get the ETA. And ETAs, that stands for Electronic Travel Authorization, which is an electronic document that is given to the person, I guess whoever is applying, to show that you have access to enter to Canada. And this access is only given once you're coming into Canada by flight through the airport. If you're driving across, if you're coming on a cruise ship, if you're coming by bus, by train, if you're walking, you would not be able to enter Canada with that ETA. You will now have to apply the regular route for a tourist visa. Right? Yes, so for the ETA, no. Hey, so for the ETAs, it depends. So ETAs, they last up to 2 years or the validity of your passport. So if your passport only has 6 months left on it, they will not give you an ETA longer than your passport. The same with a visa. So usually if you have 10 years on your passport, like if you just got your passport today and you have 10 years and you're going to apply for your visa, you'll be given 10 years. If you have 5 years left, you will get a visa for 5 years. That is the difference between the US visa and the Canadian visa. The Canadian visa goes with the expiry of your passport, and the US visa, you just get 10 years. So you can change a passport and just have that visa on a separate passport. Questions? So he asked, so the ETA, the 6 months is how long you could stay in Canada. Right? Right, so what about the last question I got was what if I wanted to live in Canada? So with a tourist visa or an ETA, you cannot live. It's for tourist purposes, where you're coming to either visit friends and family, coming to see the Niagara Falls, coming to just for the World Cup, whatever. It's for tourist reasons, basically. All right, you can't live in Canada with a ETA. If you want to live, you would apply now for you could apply for permanent residence if you just want to live, or you can apply as a student, where you'll be able to go to school here and then apply for permanent residence. Or if you have a job, you can apply for a work permit, and then after a year, you are able to now apply for permanent residence once you have that 1 year in Canada. All right, so to answer that question, you can't live or work in Canada on a ETA. Will this free up staff for processing of PR? So that's a very good question. So PR, the processing for PR is done mostly in Canada. You have agents, immigration officers that work in Canada on your application. The processing of visas are done at locations in the country. But so for example, you might have Barbados and like smaller islands. Sometimes they send their passport to Trinidad or to Jamaica, to bigger countries. But these visa applications are handled by the High Commission of the country. These are temporary visas. Permanent resident visas are handled by immigration officers in Canada. So it wouldn't really free up staff per se in that for it to be anything of like substance, because it's two different staff dealing with temporary visas and permanent visas. Let me just check to see if I missed anything. So if you all have any other questions, as I said, the live, I will be saving the live and putting it up onto my page. Okay, so yeah, so I'll be putting this up on my page. And as I said, for those of you who joined late, like, my name is Kaiande Devonish. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. What that basically means is that I am licensed by the government of Canada to provide immigration services and advice to potential immigrants. And I say licensed because sometimes persons provide advice and they're not licensed. So as I told the followers in the beginning, once it is you're going by anyone to get any kind of legal advice for immigration, first thing you ask them, hi, are you licensed? Did they say yes? Okay, do you have a license number, or what's your full name? And then Yeah, I'm seeing someone asking to join the live. Yeah, so you ask them what is their full name or their license number. Now you are able to go and check on Canada's website to... Hi, James. If you want to ask a question, you can type it in the chat. Thank you. Yeah. So if it is you're dealing with anybody for immigration advice, always ask them for their license number and you verify it yourself. Don't let them send you any screenshot or any documents saying their license, because you as the client are able to go and check it for yourself. The same way you can check to see if a doctor's license and not like a scammer, you know. So the government, the Canada.ca, that's the government website, they have a registry of all the licensed and authorized persons in the world, not just in Canada, but in the world, who are able to provide immigration advice. Let me see. How long does it take to get the ETA after you apply? Usually it's instantaneously once you pay your fees. And this is so because, unfortunately, the world is connected. So once you have a US visa, your information is already in the database. They would know whether you have a criminal record. They would know whether you know, all these different things. So they are able to, once you see you're applying, the computers are able to now check your information, check your biometrics to see who you are, and they're able to give you back a response in a few seconds. Okay, I'm seeing. So for a person without a... Okay, so good question. So this question is, a person who doesn't have a US visa or a Canadian visa, what should they apply for, an ETA or a visa? So because these are the two requirements, either or, you don't have to have both. You don't have to have a US visa and a Canada. But if you have a current US visa, you can apply, and if you had a Canadian visa in the last 10 years, you can apply. If you had neither of these documents, you would have to go the regular route, which is you apply on the through Canada.ca. You get a profile, you put in all your information that they will ask you, and they will ask you now to submit. Once you're approved, you will now send your passport to the embassy, not the embassy, the High Commission in Trinidad, and they will put a physical visa into your passport, which they, like how you have the US visa, they will attach that to your visa, to your passport. So if you don't have those two documents, you're only able to go through the regular tourist visa route. Okay, yeah, so as I said, if you all have any other questions, you can ask it now. If you want to ask me privately, you could always send me a message. You know, I'm actually thinking, I know I used to do the lives with the finance with Shariel before. So I'm thinking maybe I should start doing some lives just to share some information about the whole Canada process, what options are available to Trinidadians and persons in the Caribbean in terms of moving to Canada, working in Canada, and all these different things. And if you all have anything that you all would like me to discuss, you know, you all could always send me a message. I'm always open to sharing information and just ensuring that you all are knowledgeable and guided and not wasting money out there. Because I would have gone through the process myself as a, I'm a Canadian immigrant from Trinidad and Tobago. I would have gone through the express entry express entry stream, that process, and I know what's out there. But thank you so much. I will definitely look into doing some more lives on this topic, you know, immigration, and just, as I said, I want to help people not get tricked by all these ghost consultants out there. Yes, we call them ghost consultants because they're not licensed. And I've had so many clients come to me after they've already paid so much money. And I'm like, how? Like, how? But I'm here to just share the news and share the advice and the knowledge, so that people don't get tied up in that trap anymore, right? I really hope that, you know, I see a lot of you all in Canada, like World Cup is coming up. You know, it's easy. Once you have a US visa or you had a Canadian visa in the past, you get in that ETA, you come into World Cup, we living it up, you know. I live downtown Toronto, so I will meet you all anywhere, we pumping. And one thing about Toronto, once a Trini here, you know, it's a lot of vibes, a lot of it's culture. Like we love to just like I'm a Trinidad, but I love to show off Toronto too and make them feel at home and comfortable and just say, hey guys, this is Toronto. You have a community here as well. You know, you have a very big Caribbean community out here. Oh yeah, we are warm. We are. It's very actually it's not that warm, but if I tell you that Toronto could get hotter than Trinidad, people are like, Canada's so cold. I'm like, yeah, in the winter you could go back home for winter, but in the summer it is you want to come out of your skin. You know, it's you have to go to work. You look and say, hey boss, I quit, because you don't even want to come out of your house. It is so hot and humid, you know. But I love Toronto. I love the opportunities they have. They have a lot of opportunities for like people who are like just want to better their lives. They have so much opportunities, and the good thing is it's free. They have a lot of free services they offer new immigrants, because they're bringing in so many immigrants. They want to make sure you're settling good. Of course their end goal is for you to pay taxes in the end, but you can't pay taxes if you're not making money. So they want you to be well equipped to get a good job, and then they'll take the money, but you know, you'll be getting a good cut too. But Canada has been a very good country to me so far. You know, anybody asks, hey, is life really good? And I'm like, anywhere you go in the world, it's definitely going to take you do it. You can't just sit down and expect things to happen for you. You have to go out and actually say, hey, I'm in a new country. I'm going to network. I'm going to go and meet people. I'm going to go, like, just put yourself out there. You can't just sit down and just be sad. Of course you might be missing home, and yeah, that's all good and well, but you already paid so much money to come to Canada. Make the best of it. The same way they are using you for your taxes, you use Canada to benefit yourself and make the best out of your life. I said, like, Canada is like, I feel like they should pay me for all these advertisements, you know. Anyway guys, so yes John, oh yes, so John is in Halifax. He's out there. There's nice, but of course, you know, everyone wants to come to Toronto. But Halifax, Nova Scotia is actually one beautiful place. I should send all the trainees there. Right, John? Okay, guys. So I said the main theme of this live was to discuss the Canadian visa policy, which I would have discussed in detail higher up. So you all can go and look at the live when I post it up in the next 2 minutes. As I come off here, I'm going to just save it. Okay, it's 9 o'clock, and I promise it's going to be short and sweet. So thank you again so much. When I'm doing another one, I will give ample notice. So, oh, well, put out a job post, John. Put out a job post when they come up. Anyway, guys, it's 9 o'clock. Good night, everyone. Thank you again. Okay, those who want to talk to me privately, feel free to DM me. I will always try to, you know, help as much as I can. Okay, and I'll also put the Ultra Paradise link in on the when I post it up, so at least if you want to find out about traveling anywhere in the world, because we definitely will be doing a Canada trip now that it's easy to do, right? So we will definitely be doing a Canada trip. So bye guys, good night. Send me a DM.